Peace, family, and welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Radio. This is your host, Brother Rich. I'm here with a new guest today, a brother by the name of Minister Zhu. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how you feeling, Rich? How you feel?
Oh, I'm feeling great, brother. I'm very happy to be having today's show with you, brother. Extremely important what we're about to talk about. I can't stress enough through the words that we use in this English language the importance. And I have a lot of shows, and I have a large audience, and I can't stress enough for those listening the importance of what me and this brother is about to talk about enough through words. So, I'm just going to have to get in the show. But before we get into the show, brother, I want you to tell the people, this is the first time I'm having you on the show. Just tell the people a little bit about yourself before we get in the show. Then we're going to get into this show, brother.
All right, no doubt, man. First, I want to say I appreciate you, Rich, for giving me the opportunity to come on your platform and discuss this very important topic. So I want to say thank you for that first. My name is Minister Zhu, for those that don't know. Co-founder, vice president of My Astrology Coach. A lot of you may know the brother Noble Ampu, master astrologer. Me and him are partners, brothers. We work together over at Mac. I'm into a lot of things, man. We got a lot of ventures, but mainly what I like to deal with is the unseen, the star game, understanding the star map, the heavens, and that's pretty much it, man. Those two things blended together to give people a real firm understanding of where they're at in time and space, and understanding the dynamics of this reality as we move through it. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, man. And I guess we can get into it.
We're going to be talking about today, y'all, the quantum potential that exists within all of us. Now, we hear a lot about quantum physics, law of attraction, the secret, what the bleep do you know? It's come in many forms, the holographic universe. Well, we got people that speak on the quantum potential. But what I find, Minister Zhu, is that it's real hard. Us coming from, us incarnating at this particular time and experiencing this theme. We have this theme where we are melanated beings, and we're navigating. We're navigating a society which there appears we appear to be oppressed. There appears to be more obstacles for us than any other race. So because of that, Minister Zhu, it's hard telling our people, about the law of attraction, about you create your own reality. It's hard to greet them, namaste, or whatever, all this Buddha enlightenment. I heard Ampu put a text on Facebook earlier dealing with that. It's hard to, shout out to Ampu, it's hard to tell our people that, listen, you are the creators of your reality. This is a spiritual game. The game isn't physical, it's spiritual. Because when they turn on that TV or when they walk outside that door, Minister Zhu, and and that discrimination hits them dead in their face, and they can't get that job and they know they're overqualified, or if they see a brother get shot 50 times by the police and it ain't happening in no other race but black people, it's hard to tell that group of people that you have to smile more. When you smile, the endorphins get released in your body. And now all of this is true, absolutely true. There's a science to smiling. But what I'm telling you, Minister Zhu, is that what we're about to talk about today is extremely important. But to the people that look like melanated people, man, Minister Zhu, brother, if they watch that news and then they listen to us, they're going to say, I don't know, brothers. I don't know how we created this shit here. So my question to you, Minister Zhu, how can you tell the people that this is a spiritual game and not physical when everything they're experiencing appears to be physical and it's not of their liking? It may be, bills. It may be, discrimination. It may be racism. You know what our people have been going through for the last couple of 100 years here in this country, from the slavery era to now, Minister Zhu. So how are you going to tell the same group of people that this game is spiritual and not physical? I'm going to let you go ahead.
Well, first we must come to the understanding that these are states of consciousness that we're talking about. Everybody's playing a different role here, and the role can be shifted based upon your level of awareness and what state of consciousness you're in. Now, it becomes a group thing and very difficult because we start to identify with the group. And if the group's mentality is one that doesn't propel or disseminate a level of optimism, a level of growth, a level of development, then we lump ourselves into these larger groups that denote their particular state of consciousness. The other thing is that we have to be very, very, very careful and understand that the inner dialogue that we have about ourselves, about other people, and then the imagery that we associate with it. So when people are saying they see all of these things and you go on these social networks and the only thing that you see are people posting is the repetitive nature of all the negative influences that's bombarding their senses, they're not aware of the quantum reality and how that is affecting their day-to-day expression and experience in life, right? So once they understand that and they get a sample of what it looks like and what it feels like to turn away from that influence and then start to create your own imagery and reform your inner dialogue, right? And then match that with imagery in your mind of how you see yourself and how you see your people, then things will change. And that's really the most honest answer that I can give in regards to that question.
Now, when you study quantum physics, Minister Zhu, quantum physics basically says that something only exists when it is being perceived by an observer. Since we were small, we heard that saying, if a tree falls or something and nobody's around, did the tree really fall? We've been hearing that since we was young. We probably didn't connect it to the quantum physics, but, it's basically saying everything is pure wave potential, pure energy out here. It does not turn to a particle or what we call a solid or what we call a physical object, a so-called physical object, until it is being perceived by an observer or watched by an observer. So it's basically saying our attention, or another word for attention, I guess, would be our energetic currency, makes it real. So when we look at this quantum definition right here, we look at our experience in this physical realm, my question would be, Minister Zhu, and considering what you just said about social media and about all of these images that people are willingly broadcasting, thinking that they are doing good, but they are they're strengthening this, I guess you could say, the same thing that they say they are against. They're making it stronger. They're making it more solid. They're making it more permanent. So are we saying here, Minister Zhu, that all the crazy stuff we see on the news will disappear if we don't give our attention to it? Will it just simply disappear? How does that process work?
it cannot exist if we don't pay attention to it. It's that simple. I give you an example. See, it's difficult for people to grasp this understanding because they're so used to their senses being the rulers of this reality for them. They're not seeing how these particles that we call electrons, photons, neutrons, etc., are what's behind the veil that's introducing into the physical world what we see. So I give you an example for people who may not understand some of these terms, to give it to them in a way where it's real simple to grasp. Rich just mentioned something called observation, right? When you're viewing something, what you're giving your attention to. These particles are in a, what they call in quantum physics, a superposition state prior to you observing it, which means that there's infinite potential. There's unlimited probabilities and possibilities that exist inside of this wave. Now, when you're on the expressway and you have a wide open highway and you got some cars doing 75, some doing 65, some doing 85, people getting off at different exits, people got different music playing in their car, everybody got a different destination to get to. This is a corresponding agent to what we call quantum superposition. It's just unlimited potential. There's no definite anything in a wide open expressway, right? It's just everybody's going where they got to get to, and don't nobody know where anybody's going, but people are going. This is infinite potential, right? Now, when somebody gets pulled over on that same highway that had all of this infinite potential, right, by a state trooper, what happens? Somebody decides to observe what's going on the side of the road, okay? They look. This is in quantum physics, they call this the law of observation. Somebody decides to look, which breaks down this whole quantum superposition state. Now, once that person looks, you get what you call a Gaper's gap on the expressway. Now, that person slowed down to look, which made the car behind them slow down to look, which made the car behind them slow down to look. And now what you had at first was cars moving in and out of lanes at will. Now you get this infinite potential collapse into a particle, and now you have straight single file lines in 2 or 3 different lanes on one side of the expressway because one person decided to make an observation. The wave collapsed because they looked. Now, the term entanglement in quantum physics means when you observe something else, right, you become entangled, meaning one or side by side with that same very object in which you looked at. Now, the vehicle on the side of the highway is now motionless because a state trooper has it pulled over. It's motionless. Even though the state trooper isn't behind those 100 to 200 cars that are now forming single file lines, these cars are now motionless the same way the vehicle is on the side of the highway that's been pulled over by the police officer. It's motionless. So you became entangled in the attributes that go along with the potential that exists now attaches it itself to you, the observer. But guess what happens? The moment you get to the front of the line, where when you pass that point where this cop has this car pulled over, the expressway opens back up as if nothing ever happened.
Wow.
Because you haven't observed anymore. The observation is over with.
Now, one thing, I know you read a lot of Neville Goddard, and for those listening, I do suggest a gentleman by the name of Neville Goddard. I suggest you Google his name and read some of his material. He often uses the Bible, and he makes sort of a connection with the quantum world with the Bible. Shows you how certain characters in the Bible relate to certain aspects of your consciousness. One thing he has a chapter, or he has a book or something, and it deals with imagination. And he basically says the imagination is God. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? How can the imagination be God? Because I can imagine something that, I can imagine something bad. I can imagine something good. So a person will say, I can imagine something horrific. God would never imagine that. So why does the certain metaphysicians, people that study quantum physics, why do they say the imagination is God?
That's a great question. I would love to answer it. The deal is this. The deal is this. Is that all things exist inside of the scope or the field, or whatever name we choose to give, the field or the force that permeates all things in this reality. There is nothing but God in this world and anywhere else in the universe. All experiences that you have or can have exist in this field. It doesn't have a reference point to say you can't do this or you can't do that. This is where your free will comes in at. Now, the imagination, the imagination is God, or you're God, having an experience where your imagination will allow you to create whatever it is that you want in this reality. I give people a real clear example. Take a look at everything that surrounds you right at this moment. I don't care where you're at. Living room, bedroom, work, car, I don't care where you're at. Name one thing that you can see in your immediate environment that was created by man that did not first come out of his or her imagination. The refrigerator, the picture on your wall, the lamp, the chair that you're sitting in, the bed that you're laying in, the car that you're driving, the pencil that you're writing with. You name it. It came out of the imagination of a human being before it came into physical reality. I give you an example about how powerful the imagination is. A gentleman by the name of Niels Bohr, physicist, who was studying the science of the atom. All right? He was so entrenched in his mind about this particle that he could not see with his physical eyes, but he knew that was there based upon the mathematical formulas that he had rendered to understand that something else is going on here. One night he had a dream. He had a dream. And in this dream, the structure, he says, of an atom came into and was impressed upon his mind in his sleep. When he got up, he drew it out, and lo and behold, years down the line, way after he had had this vision that popped up in the imagination in his sleep in a dream state, it was confirmed that the atom had the proton and the neutron in the nucleus, and the electrons orbited around it in the orbiting cloud or the electron cloud. It was verified. So what I'm saying is this, is that you create everything in this reality first in your imagination. In nothing, the creator's creation is not superior to it. So if it starts in your imagination, that means that is the superior force, not the external thing that you pull together from the resources on the earth to make it bind together so that you can see it with your physical or touch it with your physical senses or see it with your eyes. The creator and the superior influence is that in which created is your imagination.
I want to read something to you, Minister Zhu, some notes I had taken down from doing some research and studying, and I want to get your opinion on it. This is from, I'm going to give a lot of references during this interview today so that people can go and research some of this stuff for themselves. Some of the things I talked about already, I want y'all to go, y'all can buy this book, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. That's a good one. Like I said earlier, Neville Goddard, he has several books. One of them is The Power of Awareness. One is Your Imagination is God. But go look up those two books. But I want to read a statement to you, and I want to get your opinion, like I said, Minister Zhu. There is no objective reality. Reality is merely a reflection within your divine consciousness that gives you an opportunity to have a relationship with your creation from a specific point of view. Now, does that mean, Minister Zhu, we always hear about, the world. When you observe it from this sentence that I have jotted down, does that mean that each person is their own world and there's parallel worlds or parallel universes, and each person creates their own individual world? Because like you said, when we was talking about the whole black thing, you could lump yourself into a specific consciousness, collective consciousness, and if that collective consciousness doesn't advance to a certain point, then you stay stuck in that collective consciousness. Is that the same thing for saying there's only one world? Because if there's only one world, we accept all of these perceptions, agreements that we are given. But if we say that reality is subjective, then we understand that it's sort of a know thyself thing. It's a subjective journey. It's each man creates his own world. So what does that statement say to you? Is there more than one world? Because this is something that we've been taught for centuries. There's only one world. Or according to your research, is there more than one world, more than one universe?
Absolutely, it's more than one world and more than one universe. The statement is accurately correct. You are creating everything in your environment based off a subjective state of awareness. What happens is we say things internally, we see things internally, and because our memories are so bad, we forget some of the things that we said and that we thought about and that we visualized in our mind, and then it shows up 2 months later or 3 months later in the form of Mary, Sue, Tom, Jabari, whoever else.
Right.
And then we're saying, oh, I can't believe they did that. Or I can't believe they said that. And then because we can't remember what we did last week, Thursday, right? We forget all of these thoughts that's running through our minds, and then it shows up in this reality, and then we blame the objective world, the person who you magnetize to match that feeling or to match that thought or to match that awareness. So the more that we continue to give our power and attention away, right, and not center it and focus it on what's conducive for what we want to manifest, then we allow these circumstances and events to keep perpetuating themselves in this reality. Now, these multiple worlds, here's the science with that. The further you go in elevating yourself to these degrees of awareness and consciousness, the more things start to open up for you in this reality. I give you an example from a movie. I never forget it. There was a movie called The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage. And it was a scene in the movie where they had let Morgana out she was putting this big 5-pointed star made of fire in the heavens, and the apprentice was on his way to go help his teacher. He would look out the window, and he would be able to see these rings of fire in the sky. Then his girlfriend would look out, and she couldn't see nothing. And they kept going back and forth between her and him for about three screenshots, like back and forth, where they would show him so he could see, she couldn't. What happens is this. You have something, and I want people to really, really understand this, Rich. The human body is amazing, but the brain, and we'll probably get into this later when we get into some of the Jesus science, this brain is where the Christ energy is dormant and is lying asleep and waiting to be awakened. Once you start going through that experience, you start to activate these different logic gates. Just like in your computer, you have something called logic gates that actually deal with the whole logic board that sends the information to and fro through your network and your computer. It's basically the brains of the computer. Well, in your brain, you have a brain part called the amygdala, which actually has gates that deal with a certain amount of energy and experiences that you have that enter and seep into the limbic system of your brain. The higher you go in states of awareness and consciousness, the more gates open up in your brain, which allows you to see into different aspects of reality while being on this planet, while other people are saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. Even with the metaphysical stuff, when you're seeing events, most people only have one for vision, where they look at things and it's always in a carnal sense. And they get stuck there, and then they start debating about these type of things. But then you have 2 for vision, where you realize that everything in this reality is a symbol. It's a symbol to give you a deeper understanding of how you relate and how it relates to you, you see, in a personal sense. So when you start to elevate and you're rising this energy up, different gates and boards will open up in your brain, and you will be able to perceive a whole larger range or scope of perception on this planet. And so, yes, there are multiple layers and dimensions of reality. Like Paul said, I was took up to the 3rd heaven. I do not know whether I was in my body or not in the scriptures, you see. So in those scriptures, they're giving you reference points, right, because they're personifications of states of consciousness. So they're not per se real entities, but the people who wrote them were, who actually went through these mystical experiences, and they were journaled and written into these texts, so that when you become awakened enough, you'll be able to penetrate the surface stuff and go to the next level of understanding in the symbology, you see. So absolutely, there's many layers and dimensions to this reality. Absolutely.
You mentioned Jesus, Minister Zhu. I want to touch on Jesus real quick. I want to give you a quick personal account of, each one of, everybody, we go, like you said, we go through different stages in consciousness. When I was young, Minister Zhu, I was told Jesus was the Son of God. To reach God, you had to go through Jesus Christ. I was raised a Christian. So, when I was young, before I prayed, I had to say God in the name of Jesus. Anything I asked God, I had to say God in the name of Jesus. You had to go through Christ to get to God. When I start to get some knowledge of self, and you usually start with the conspiracy stuff. That's usually the gateway to the higher forms that you're not able to elevate to yet. So you start with the conspiracy stuff. When you start to get into conspiracy and some other things, you realize that I started to realize that Jesus is it was kind of it was astrological. It was an aspect of consciousness. It was just something that exists within me or whatever, and that Jesus didn't exist. So I started to say, man, fuck that whole Jesus shit, man. That nigga ain't never exist, man. Jesus is an aspect of me, whatever. So then I started to elevate more consciousness. I said, you know what? And I started getting into the quantum stuff. I said, you know what? Jesus did exist. maybe not the name Jesus, but everybody gets what I'm saying. There was a person who had it popping to that extent. When you say that story, and when we talk in layman's terms, and we're not being all, trying to be all, whatever about this, Jesus had it popping. And the more I got into this quantum studying and this metaphysical and start to really understand things, I'm saying, you know what? I appreciate the story of Jesus because there's no difference between him and me. It is an aspect of my consciousness, but I also realized that there was an individual or individuals, I should say individuals, that had it popping to that extent, that was able to perform miracles to that extent. So I use it as a platform of inspiration to say that, anything they did, I could do. The proof, a person might say, Minister Zhu, Brother Rich, where's the proof? Tell me how can a person walk on water? I don't need proof. I don't need to see to believe. I need to believe to see. So the proof is in the law. The law is all the proof we need. We don't need objective reality to prove things for us. I think that's what holds us back from accomplishing things because we're looking for an objective approval. I have the subjective approval. I have the law that already told me anything's possible. So whether I do it or I see anybody do it, I know it's possible. But I want you, Minister Zhu, to get into this whole Jesus thing, Minister Zhu, because the metaphysicians say that nigga ain't exist. This is just some astrology. The people that's in the religion is saying he did exist. He's the only Son of God. We have to pray to God to get to Jesus. It's one of the most famous names in the world, Minister Zhu. I want you to get us some quantum esoteric. I want you to give us a quantum esoteric understanding of this whole Jesus character and clear up some of the misconceptions. Go ahead, brother.
That's easy to do, man. All right. I'm gonna take it to the quantum first because you mentioned a scripture there where they say nobody can get to the Father but through me. This is Jesus, right?
Right.
I had a presentation in a workshop that me and Ampu did called the Intelligent Emotions Workshop, and I covered that exact statement because I went into the dynamics of the quantum world. Now, it was an experiment done in Australia where they had 3 photons. For those that don't know what photons are what you see as visible light, right, from the sun. These are photons. When electrons get hot or stimulated, they release these packets of energy called photons, similar to the female body. We can probably get into that later. But these scientists in Australia, they were trying to figure out a way, Rich, to get photon A, and let's mark photon A the human race, me, you, whoever, anybody else. They were trying to get photon A to photon C. We're going to call C the field or God, right? What they noticed was they could not get photon A to entangle with photon C. They couldn't get it to move. They obliviated the photon. They tried to force it through lasers to move itself to photon B. What they did find out, though, through this experiment by doing that was that when they obliviated photon A, it showed up 3 feet away from the original place that it was positioned in, and it rematerialized itself 3 feet away from its original spot, which allows us to understand that we as humans don't die. We just reappear in another form in a distant place because the human body is composed of atoms. So if we are atoms, and we are, and this was done to these same subatomic particles, that means the same thing applies to us as to how we're made, right? But moving forward, they couldn't get A to C. So they said, okay, we have to interject B. We're going to call B Jesus for old time's sake. When they interjected B into the phenomenon, B was able to come over and merge with A. you, and me, humanity, right? But we're dealing with photons here, right? But we're looking at the symbology of what they were trying to tell you in the biblical text through allegory and story. We get caught up dealing with this surface stuff, and we start debating about, was it a real man? No. We're trying to elevate the level of cognition so that we can understand what is being said behind the story. So when they moved B, which is Jesus, to A, humanity, they were able to merge those two photons. Photon A would merge with photon B. Now, mind you, B and C, Jesus and God, the two photons, were already entangled in the experiment. They were together, side by side, hip by hip, right? So hence, me and my Father are the same. Me and my Father are one. Get it? Two photons entangled. When they moved B to A, humanity, they noticed something very amazing. B lost its identity into A. The second photon, or the B photon, had to change its polarity to match A's. He had to give up, or it had to give up its identity in order for it to merge with another photon. Then something else happened that was amazing. Once that entanglement was complete, B and A became complete, C, which is God, had to change its polarity to match A's. Now, what does that mean in simple conversation? When you understand how to go inside internally and deal with the subjective light of your consciousness, right, you become entangled with the field called God. Through your subjective light, that's why the Christ said, I am the light of the world. So the subjective light in you that only can come about when you get into practices of meditation and focusing your mind's eye, these photons interact with your consciousness in a spiritual way. You see? So that means when the Christ said in the scriptures right before he went down to get crucified, he turned to his Father in heaven and said, what did he say? He said, if there's anything you can do to take this burden off of me, please let it pass. But if it be your will, then I have to go do it. So how is that parallel to this experiment that happened in Austria dealing with these three photons? Photon B had to lose its identity, I said, which is Jesus, right, to photon A, which is humanity, right? So the Christ is telling God, you're finna send me through this act where I have to lose who I am. I have to die in the essence of what I organically am, and I have to sacrifice myself for this other photon over here called humanity. And I lose my identity in them so that they can be merged with you. See, photon. So it is a science to these stories, trying to get you to understand how to relay these different levels of cognition and consciousness so that you can become awake in the dream. You are God, people who are listening. You are God in the flesh that has forgotten you are God. When you close your eyes and practice the art of meditating, you awaken, or you slowly begin to awaken in the dream. And what happens to a person who is now conscious inside of their own dream? Miracles happen. Does that answer your question, Rich?
Yes, sir. Now, you say, we are God. In a dream, who forgot that we are God. Why would God, another way of saying that is, you are the one pretending to be a part of the one. So the one we call God, the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever name you may give it, is pretending to be Minister Zhu, Brother Rich, brothers like Brother Ampool, and so on and so forth, Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett, Blue Pill, Red Pill, whatever name you may come up with. What's the purpose of the one God, the universe, infinite intelligence, playing this game where he, she, it pretends to be separated through all of these different personalities? Called Minister Zhu, called Brother Rich, called Phil Valentine, called Malcolm X, called Elijah, called Hitler. Because it's not a moral thing. It's, as you said, everything is God. So, George Bush, I mean, we could go on. It goes on and on. So what's the purpose of God participating in this holographic universe where is the obvious duality of what we call good and evil?
It's a great question. My answer to that would be this. Would be that matter, everything in existence is part of creation. However, matter can seem to be inanimate, right? So in order for everything to have an expression, right, and in order for everything to continue to evolve inside of this thing called reality, right, then that same essence penetrated all these objects in this physical world in order to collect experience. Experience is what allows everything to continue to evolve. The creator itself, because we are the creator, all in the flesh, we're all looking for ways to continue to expand and to continue to evolve. But the only way that you can continue to do that is through some form of experience, whether good or bad.
Which is relative terms, because what's good to me may be bad to you and vice versa, right?
That's right.
That is quite interesting. I want to touch a little bit, being that we are gods here, and there should be no fear when I say that statement to anybody listening. We are gods here. The thing with everybody is manifestation. Everybody wants to manifest something, Mr. Zhu. Whether it's a woman in their life for the brothers, sisters, whether it's a man in their life, whether it's money, whether it's what we call material objects, which is still spirit slowed down enough for us to perceive. A car is just as spiritual as anything else. Everything down here is spirit. It just appears to be physical because of, like you said, our senses. And before I get into the question, before I forget, family, those listening, there's also a book. There's an author called Seth. Jane Roberts. And she has a book called Seth. I said I was going to be giving a lot of references. The spirit just pops things in my mind, so I got to say it when it comes. But the author, Jane Roberts, in the book is called Seth. And the same thing Minister Zhu is talking about. So she deals extensively with the senses. And one of the main things she says is the senses are fancy little liars. So, what appears to be physical may not be physical or, whatever, but just look it up. I just want to throw that in there. But, anyway, back to the question. We're dealing with manifestation, Minister Zhu. We all want to manifest down here. Our ancestors did hell of a manifestation. One of the biggest complaints people have is, if this is real, why aren't black people manifesting to the level they are in ancient Egypt? Why study ancient Egypt? We aren't manifesting to that level. We have to concentrate on other things. Anyway, I want to deal with manifestation, Mr. Zhu, and they say that you attract your desires not particularly by what you think, not just by what you think, but by what you feel. My question is, Minister Zhu, how important is feelings? Because, you know, we're taught that, we were taught that feelings is a, sort of a bad thing, don't pay attention to your feelings, whatever. But they're saying, and there's something I've seen on documentary, Greg Braden, where he was saying the monks in Tibet, I believe, were saying that it wasn't necessarily the mantras that they were saying that was enabling them to manifest at a great rate, but it was the feeling that the mantra created within them that made them, gave them an ability to manifest. And if everything down here is electromagnetic, they say that the heart is 10,000 times more stronger than the brain when it comes to penetrating the electromagnetic field. Now, we also know that some of the most emotional people in the world are black people. The way we walk, the way we talk, the way we, everything, the way we dance, just about everything we do down here is emotional. So if you have a group of emotional beings down here, how important is emotion and feeling? Because it seems like our emotions are always being manipulated. Like we said, you look at the news, you look at the Facebook line, feed, or whatever you call that, the feed lines or whatever you call that. It's just horrible stories all the way down. We used to complain about the news when we were young. We don't have to complain about the news no more because our own people was giving us horrible stories from top to bottom, straight horrible stories. So it seems like somebody, our feelings are important, our emotions are important, and somebody wants them. So how important is feelings, Minister Zhu?
Well, man, it's interesting because I just dropped something today where I called it the Mac Challenge, where I said, for the next 7 days, can you not watch the news? I put the challenge out there. For the next 7 days, can you not watch the news and or read any newspapers? I asked the people that question. I said, can you do that for 7 days? And I said, the only thing that you can do is things that are conducive to what you want to manifest by way of your goals, or something that makes you a better person. That's it. And I just threw it out there to see, because you're right. Every time you turn around, everybody's posting bad news. It's just bad news, and they think they're being informative, but they're really perpetuating the event. Now, and I got a couple of examples for that, but first, this is why the emotions are important. The emotions are the driving force to pull or to magnetize what it is that you're trying to manifest. So, when you hear quotes like this in the biblical text, when it says stuff like, fear the Lord, or the way to the Lord is through fear, and all these different things, right? First, we have to understand that they're talking about the functions that's going on in your brain, i.e., Jesus Christ died in the land of Golgotha, which translates to the land of the skull. Every time you see a king in the Bible that's trying to kill the group of the people or the Israelites or whoever, they're talking about the left brain, because the left brain is the one that deals with the violence, the anger, the killing, etc., etc. So once you understand that, every time you read the text now, you have a firm idea of what function they're trying to explain to you in your brain, in your body, and how you're in these different states of consciousness because of this. So, in your brain, the most sensitive brain part in your whole brain is a structure called the amygdala. It takes the least amount of electrical energy to stimulate this particular brain part. Now, they did a study where they found out this woman was born without an amygdala. She had no fear. There was nothing that could make her afraid, because this is the brain part that actually deals with fear, anxiety, all these different things that are attached to these emotional states. So when they say fear the Lord or through fear is the way that you get to God, you have to bypass, or you have to learn how to navigate You have to learn how to navigate through these channels and through this particular brain part before you can even get into the good stuff. But it is the brain part that's actually going to do the initiation to get you in this field based off how you feel. See?
Okay.
So now, once you've mastered and control the way that you feel, or the things that can get you to respond in a certain way, right? Then you're on the way to manifestation, right? But as long as your emotions are scattered and all over the place, and they're not put into a constructive template for you to work from, then you're not going to manifest, especially when you're dealing with bad news all the time, and especially when all you're talking about is Ebola all the time. And, I mean, just a bunch of, this is the question that I always ask people. Name me one thing outside of the weather where the news ever had a positive impact on your life directly. You can't name one thing. You can't name one thing. You can get up tomorrow for the next 30 days and never look at the news, and your life will continue to move just the way that it has been. The only difference is you have to put your own imagery in your own mind, and that's why we fall short of manifesting. When you read these scriptures, when you read these scriptures, and you see, because we're talking about observation in quantum physics, the first stanza in Genesis, when it says, and God saw that it was good, right? And God saw that this was good. Why is it necessary for the field, or what we call God, to continuously tell you, the reader, after something was manifested and brought into creation, God had to look at it? See? So it's a Hebrew word. It's a Hebrew word that describes the process and what's really being exemplified in that stanza. That word, when you translate it over into the Hebrew, which is the organic text that it was written in, or language that it was written in, says to manifest from a dream state. That's what the word means. So once we understand how to build up a heightened level of emotion and get happy about the things that we're seeing in our mind's eye and propel that emotion towards that imagery, it can't help but find its creator in this reality, being you. We do it all the time. When we go to these movies and we're thinking that it's a conspiracy, they put in, everything they put in the movie. Let me tell you something, man. You go in that movie theater because you don't know the dynamics of correspondence, and anything that you mimic, you will exemplify in this reality. So a camera and the human eye and the brain have exact functions. So when you're in a movie theater, right, you have to understand that the projector is acting as the light that bounces off the lens of your camera, same way the light bounces off the pupil in your eye. And then the screen that they're bouncing it off of, what do they call it? They call it the silver screen, right? So you're dealing with an astrological phenomenon, because we know that the moon corresponds to silver, but it's on a screen being projected out so that you can see the image in a 2D or a 3D if you got the glasses on in the movie theater. So now you're sitting down in the theater where these lights are dim or they're off, which corresponds to the dark chamber of the camera, which then corresponds to the developing room for the photographer who's developing the image. So you're sitting in there acting as the solution and the dark chamber of the camera that's going to bring to life that which is being projected on the silver screen. By the way, that same film that's in the camera of the photographer, the film is laced with something called silver nitrate, which is very passive and static in its nature. just like the moon. So it is a play going on, and you're participating in the development of the image. So then you go to the movies in the whole United States, go to the movie to go see this movie Purge, right? And then all of a sudden people just getting shot dead everywhere, and there ain't being no retribution for nothing. More than ever, seems like. You see, it's being projected into your consciousness more than ever, and we keep perpetuating it. The question is, when are we going to start creating our own propaganda by way of imagery to promote what it is that we want to see manifest in our reality, instead of going to see what they got to say and viewing their news outlets and going into their movies, right? And then we help project the reality that's being brought forth by the creators of the film or the creators of the news station. We have to create our own propaganda to facilitate the imagery that we want to pervade in our reality. That's the key. That's why I asked him, can you turn off the TV for 7 days? Can you do it?
Man, Minister Zhu, that was an amazing analogy, brother. I'm talking about absolutely amazing, brother, to demonstrate how technology mimics or imitates our organic technology within us, how the computer, the cell phone, the projector, it imitates, you know, like how you use the analogy between our eyes and the camera. It was absolutely amazing, brother. And I advise everybody, man, I don't do this normally when I do the show, but rewind that part. Please rewind that part, because, family, I'm telling you, it's so important for you to know what's going on. Reality isn't what you think it is, man. It's something else, man, when you deal with this, when you deal with it from an energetic perspective, when you deal with it from a quantum perspective, and see how they're getting us to do everything, you know, the same thing we're saying we don't want, we're creating more of it. The same thing we say we don't want, but we're creating more of it unknowingly. So when they say, why do bad things happen to so-called good people? Because good people don't know the laws of the universe, people. Good people don't understand the cosmic laws, people. They understand it. So you think you're a quote-unquote good person, you tied in, you holding the door for old ladies, you getting up out your chair for a woman who's pregnant, or, you know, you raising your kids because you are a single mother, and bad things keep happening. You like, man, what the fuck is going on, man? You have to understand these cosmic laws, man. Good things happen to quote-unquote good things, because it's all relative. Quote-unquote good things happen to quote-unquote bad things happen to quote-unquote good people because of our ignorance of these cosmic laws, man. And that breakdown was absolutely amazing. And this is why I said at the beginning of the show, man, this message, this quantum message is the most important message right now for our people with what's going on. You see, on every blood moon, they do something drastic this year. Whether it's the Don Sterling, whether it's the Mike Brown, this last one that just happened. We're talking about the moon, and we're talking about as above, so below. We're talking about our emotions. We know the moon correlates with our emotions. What do they do this last blood moon? The first Ebola victim to die is a black man. So this huge uproar. You know, we continue to think about injustice and all this other stuff, man. You have to think. You have to study this quantum world, people. It's a game being played on a whole nother level, a quantum level, not a physical level. So I thank you, Minister Zhu. The next question I have, Minister Zhu, is dealing with the ego. Something we hear a lot about, Minister Zhu. Now, there's a saying, Minister Zhu, whether you think you can or you can't, you are always right. Let me say that again. Whether you think you can, Minister Zhu, whether you think you can do something, or whether you think you can't do something, Minister Zhu, either way you right. It's not, okay, am I right? Either way you right. Why? All beliefs generate their own self-perpetuating systems of support. What does that mean, Minister Zhu? Let's get into that, Minister Zhu. Because you know what we have, Minister Zhu? I'm going to tell you what we have, Minister Zhu. My experience in this space-time reality. Brother, a lot of arguments. I'm glad I read that. A lot of arguments, Minister Zhu. Brothers saying, black woman ain't shit. That bitch ain't shit. Child support, this, that. What evidence do they have? Their experience. Oh, you see, I told you that bitch ain't shit. You see that skirt? You see how she talk to me? What do you have? Sisters. Niggas ain't shit. Niggas ain't taking care of their motherfucking kids. What evidence do they have? I told you the nigga, look at that. They see something on TV. Look at that. Something they got. Look at that. So we have these beliefs, Minister Zhu. And because we have these certain beliefs, we experience these beliefs. So we encounter another person who has opposing belief, and we like, motherfucker, you crazy. I'm telling you, this nigga ain't shit because of A, B, C, and D. And the other person say, no. You crazy motherfucker because of X, Y, Z, and W. And they get together, and it's a battle of who's right and who's wrong. But when you deal with the quantum world, Minister Zhu, both of them are right because of their belief system and because their beliefs are self-perpetuated systems. So we get into this either or, this right or wrong, when it's right and both of them are right. They're both right because their beliefs are generating that particular experience. Like we said, it's a parallel world. So I want you to get into, Minister Zhu, our belief system and how the ego makes us think that we are, because everybody, Minister Zhu, the platform you in, everybody thinks they got the answer to save the people. Everybody thinks, I have the solution to save the people. It's economics? No. It's spirituality? No. It's this? No. It's revolution. It's violence. Everybody thinks they have the answer, Minister Zhu. So talk to me a little bit about the ego and these self-perpetuating belief systems that we create in our mind, that we end up experiencing, that we think is confirming how right we are.
Well, I think you pretty much answered the question. You're right. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. And first, I want to say this too, is that I always say this because we have these moments where we get into these spats and everybody thinks they're right. The only evil thing that I consider to be in this world is when somebody takes away your ability to make a choice, which means reason, being able to reason should always save the day. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. So we get into this situation where these type of events take place. Now, if we're trying to work a situation through, this is how it has to be done from the quantum level. The 3D reality is based upon solids, right? Things that you can touch, whatever your senses can perceive as a reality, right? In order to change the dynamic, because all of those things that you just mentioned were circumstances and events that made us feel a certain type of way. Okay. Nobody wants to wake up in the morning and have to tell somebody those things intentionally. Like it usually is triggered from situations that have been building up over time, and then it becomes a running theme in these people's lives because they never went back to try to rectify the situation. But since we're dealing with the quantum and we know that everything has an order, so we know that the 4D supersedes the 3D reality, has to, right? So now, when we're dealing with correspondence, I ask the people this question. When we look at quantum superposition and we say to ourselves, how does it function? Forget the name. Forget the big fancy name, superposition. Forget that. Let's just look at the function. The function is, it says, this wave deals with infinite probability and possibilities. There is no limit to the outcome that can be facilitated out of this wave, right? What part of the human being is identical to that same function? There's only one part that's identical to that same function. It's called your imagination. because you can do whatever you want to do inside of your imagination. Now, how does this tie into this question? Because I'm looking for answers to rectify those situations. The only thing that supersedes these 3D objects in our reality is the same thing that got us into these rifts because of our self-perpetuated ideas of how we see ourselves and other people, is events. So now, the 4D reality deals with events, space-time, and the only thing that happens inside of space-time reality are events. You name it. What did you do yesterday? I went here, I went there, I drove there, I had to work, whatever it was. When it boils down to it, whatever you did was an event of some sort. So we have to learn how to become or awaken, not become because we are already gods. We have to awaken as God and start getting up in the morning and planning our day in our mind's eye by way of what events we want to see take place, and watch how your whole reality shifts. So those arguments that you're having about the indifferences that you have with your partner, see your partner in your mind's eye being conducive in some type of event that is congruent to the way that you see the reality, right? And vice versa, right? And you will see how these things will start to shift and change, because the ego is only involved because your desires are not being met. When people's desires are being met, the ego has a way of, disseminating, right? And then it picks back up again later if you get too big-headed by the things that you're being able to manifest in this world. But initially, it goes away when we first get that taste or that touch of being able to have, or being able to be in unison with another person. That initial euphoria of love seeps in, and it's happiness for a while until things start getting a little rocky later. And then you have to do some other things to kind of mold that and mend that. But the ego in itself, man, it's a tough tool, man, because you do need it. It's not like you don't need it, right? Because you're going to always be in situations where you have to defend yourself, or you want to have a feeling of self-worth, but sometimes it goes unchecked, and then we find ourselves in some detrimental situations. So my answer to that would be is you have to learn how to make events happen. You have to learn how to be the creator of your reality so you don't have to worry about those things, you see? And you have to just like you got entangled with that person or entangled with that idea, the only way that you can get yourself out of it is to completely get rid of it by no longer observing it. The laws don't change. The laws always going to stay the same. You just have to pick the tools up and actually use them. But that's difficult because people they're happy, but they won't admit it. That chemical keeps releasing in their body every time they have that same experience over and over and over again. And the body has become the master instead of the mind being the master. And now it's your body looking for that fix all the time, over and over and over and over again. And you created a habit, and we don't know how to break it. Brother Rich, you there?
I'm sorry, Minister Zhu. I pressed mute by accident. I was actually talking, but you didn't hear me. I pressed mute by accident. But I heard everything you said. What I was just saying that you didn't hear me is, Minister Zhu, we are gods. We are infinite beings. We are extraterrestrials. We are whatever word you could think of in the English language to describe something amazing, extraordinary. Every second of every minute, Minister Zhu, we have a natural inclination to go towards something that points us toward our divinity. So it's a journey. Like I said earlier, Minister Zhu, my first step was the conspiracy route. When I got out of religion, I I knew there was something unseen. So religion wasn't telling me. So, I went to conspiracy because it was the easiest to understand. Illuminati, something behind closed doors. And then, you elevate slowly. You elevate slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm.
Minister Zhu, every second of every minute of every day, we're being sold something that is telling us that we're being told will enhance our spirituality, our spiritual systems. I was up late at night, me and my queen. We was flicking through the channel, and they were selling something on BET, the blood of Jesus. And, Peter Popoff and all these boys, white boys on BET, they got these infomercials that this is going to cure you, the blood of Jesus, or the holy cloth, or whatever. But this particular night, it was the blood of Jesus. This blood of Jesus was going to cure you of everything. So, we was talking, and we would say, oh, these motherfuckers is full of shit. I can't believe motherfuckers is still falling for this in 2014. Goddamn, this shit, We said all that. Then I had to think from a quantum world, and I'm like, hold up. Now, if the person really believes that's going to heal them, will it heal them? If the person believes strong enough that the so-called blood of Jesus, as ridiculous as it sounds, or a prayer cloth, these motherfuckers is con artists. A prayer cloth. They get off on knowing we're spiritual people and knowing how we are. So they come up with a scheme. And because we're so spiritual, the scheme still might work. And they're like, God damn, these are some spiritual people. I came up with a scam and the shit still worked for these niggas. God damn, I ain't never seen a group of niggas like this. You come up with a scam and the scam still turned out good for the niggas. But anyway, Minister Zhu, my question, we have mantras, we have yantras, we have crystals, we have meditations, we have words. Say Osiris 40 times. We have objects. We have shrines. We have everything in the world, Minister Zhu, that we are told will raise us to the next level of consciousness. Everybody, according to the level of vibration they're on, resonates with different things. Mm-hmm. Now, my question is, Minister Zhu, I studied an individual named Bashar said, and it struck me as kind of interesting, said that all these things, all these objects, Minister Zhu, are reflections of the belief system within you that says this is what you will allow to give you permission to change in the way you wish to. My question, Minister Zhu, we got everything, Minister Zhu. We got water. People's miracle water. The list never runs out because every minute there's something new being sold to us. My question to you, Minister Zhu, is we're dealing with belief, manifestation. We're dealing with this quantum world. We're dealing with energy. We're dealing with so many things tonight. Absolutely amazing show. My question to you, Minister Zhu, is it these things? Are these things creating a change in our life? It could be medicine. It could be herbs. It could be Dr. Sadie herbs, Minister Zhu. It could be the electro. I took some of Dr. Sadie herbs that worked out good for me. It could be some of Dr. Sadie herbs. It could be whatever, good or bad, whatever you make there, the hospital, the doctor. My question to you, Minister Zhu, is it the objects that are allowing us to change, heal, and grow, or is it our belief in the objects that are allowing us to change, grow, and heal?
All right. Again, it's based off your level of cognition and your level of the different states of consciousness that you're in. So it's relative for people wherever they're at. Now, because we're speaking quantum, and which in my opinion is the highest level of manifestation, because I've seen it in my life time and time again. What happens is this. They got something called the placebo, right?
Yeah.
Where these sick people go to these doctors, not knowing that the doctors are running an experiment, and they give these people sugar pills, and they give these people saline shots, right? And these people walk up out of the hospital, up out of the clinic, and whatever they came in with goes away. Now, they took nothing but a sugar pill or a saline shot that they thought was an actual antibiotic or, you know, some type of serum or serum rather that was going to do whatever it normally does to their body when these chemicals start to react in a certain type of way. What the doctors found out was amazing. They said these people's ailments have resided and or went away, and they didn't get authentic medication, which now science has had to put in their books that it is the power of the mind based upon what you believe is going on with you, based upon what you think wholeheartedly and sincerely that you think is going on with your personal situation, will release these chemicals in your body that already exist that will bring forth the healing and the manifestation in your body, mind, soul, environment. So we have to be real careful when we're talking about somebody's belief system is inorganic or inaccurate. We have to be careful because now science is saying, hold on, wait a minute. Based upon what these people believe, it actually did exactly what it would have done had we gave them the authentic thing that we normally give our patients. So how are we going to assess this now? You see, so if you believe it or have faith in it to that degree that it will perform such a thing, then such a thing, so shall it be. You see? So you know, like I said, but that depends on your level of cognition, and it depends on, like in that case, these people have put their full faith and credit. It's just like this, man. When you go to the doctor, like you could be hurting, but as soon as you go in there, it's like whatever was bothering you, either it went away or then it subsided already. As soon as you walk in there, you be like, damn, I don't even feel that shit no more. You see what I'm saying? So what? All it took was your state of mind to go in there and think you was finna get some healing. So in our situation, in this culture, we have to stop believing that emphatically in one another. That same belief has to be portrayed in one another, that we will be successful, that we will be abundant, that we will be happy, that we will be righteous rulers. That all of this has to be a firm belief, but it cannot be wavering. See, because, listen, man. I'll give you a story. Akhenaten, right? I was reading the piece on Akhenaten about 3 months ago because essentially we're talking about light, right? We're dealing with quantum physics, we're dealing with light, particles of light.
Right.
So I'm reading up on Akhenaten, and they were saying how he would build these edifices, right? And he would put on these steles all this imagery of him going to war with other surrounding nations that never actually happened in history. The people who were coming in, the merchants, people who were just passing through the land, doing whatever, they would see this imagery of Akhenaten slaying these enemies on these monuments, right? And they would say, wow, he really kicked their ass. But in real life, it never happened. But it never had to happen. Because the one who understands, right, that if you can impress in somebody else's psychology a propaganda or a story,
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Minister Zhu, come on, brother. Don't listen, man. Don't try. Come on, people. Did you hear what the fuck he just said? Oh man, listen. Yo, brother, I'm gonna tell you, you are another sign that this shit is real, man. I wanted to build with somebody from the black community, so-called black community, whatever term we want to use down here in this space-time reality, dealing with this quantum physics, man. Because when it's time to study this, man, I go to Esther Hicks, I go to Greg Braden. There's not a lot of black people that talk about, and I talked about that in the very beginning. Why? Because the black people are going through so much shit. They're not interested in all this namaste and you are the enlightened one and you are Christ. Christ is in you and you could manifest whatever you want. So, I'm thankful to have this conversation with you, and I know a lot of my listeners are interested in this and want to hear more and more of this. But, I'm glad to have found somebody to articulate it the way in which you articulate it, Minister Zhu. And I look forward to having you on here much more often, Minister Zhu. And, let me say this, Rich. Let me say this too, Rich. Hold on. I want to say this for all the people out there because I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm about revolution and retribution too. Right. And let me say this. Let me say this. This same science that I'm talking about tonight on this phone, me and the brother Ampool have demonstrated how to use this quantum science in what I would call quantum self-defense against whoever you think your oppressor is. So there's a whole other side to this. I gave you the side to show you how to use it in your personal space to manifest the things of your desire. But on the other side of the coin, it's a whole other ball game. Like you said, it's infinite possibility. Like you said, infinite, brother, infinite possibility. Like you said that several times today. It's many ball games. It's infinite ball games. So I definitely need to, I'm gonna have you on here, brother. We're gonna get into, this is like the beginners. This is like the beginners show, introducing you, a light introduction of who Minister Zhu is to, Brother Rich Underground Railroad Radio, so that people could see, have a beginner understanding of this quantum thing. So, we're gonna get into all that, brother, and I definitely appreciate. I'm glad you said that. Because, it's infinite ball games out here. You decide which one you want to be a part of, I want you to let the people know how they can contact you, brother, because people are always looking to contact the guest on my show for more information, brother. I'm going to put your information in the description bar. So tell the people how they can get at you, brother.
Oh, man. You can get at me, man, at myastrologycoach.com, or you can get at me at theneuronetwork.com, or you can get at me at Hip Hop Astrology at Twitter, because that's our handle over there. We got a radio show where we deal with the whole star alignment and taking it to the hip hop game to show you how their life corresponds to their star pattern through a lot of the major things that happen to them in the news cycle. So this Monday coming up, we're going to do some on Jay Electronica, because a lot of people out there talking about his whole relationship with Kate Rothschild and whether he sold out. So we're going to build on that this Monday. But, them the main three, man. Visit the website, man, especially My Astrology Coach, because that's where we're the most active. I got a retreat coming up next week. I'm going to be in Atlanta called the $1 Billion Manifestation Tour. We're taking it to another level with this quantum science, man. I'm showing people how to activate this potential inside themselves, man. We're going to visit the Federal Reserve Bank. We're going to take you in there. You always talking about you want millions, you want money. When have you ever been around $1 million? When have you ever been behind the teller's desk? So we're going inside of the bank where they give you the virtual tour and give you the history of money where you can actually step inside the vault. So now we're doing it 2 times. We're going to imagine it, and we're going to put our physical body in the space and the place. And then we're going to go take people to a mansion down there in the Atlanta area so that your senses can get acclimated to what it feels like to be on the large estate, because you want abundance. That's all it is in the universe, expansion. And then we're going to take it to the spiritual component and take people to the mounds, the Kolamoki Mounds, down in Georgia. We're going to get into a meditation on the mound where the ancestors of this particular landmass got it in all the time. And I'm going to explain the brain science on why the mound and why this infinite space is important and how it activates the hippocampus in the brain, right? Because that is actually the white horse that the Christ came back on in Revelations when he called himself the Amen. He came back on the white horse, but that's the seahorse in your brain. That's the master, not gland, but the master organism inside of the Olympic brain that actually taps into your cosmic memory so that you can remember who you are and have an infinite library of everything that ever happened in this universe being transmitted through you down into your physical essence as God. So we get into that, man. So visit the website, man. That's going to be next week. Anybody in the area, you still got time to sign up. We got the hotel situated. Transportation will be taken care of. If you want to fly in, if you're already in the Atlanta area, we got a package too if you're driving yourself. So visit the website.
Any number if they want to call?
Oh, yeah, the number is area code 267-403-4078. That's the number. You'll either get myself or Ampu. So 267-403-4078 is a cell phone number. You call, you'll either get myself or Ampu if you want to get some further information. But for the most part, we on the websites, and that's what we got coming up.
And once again, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, brother. This is Brother Rich, UndergroundRailroadNet.com. And we will have Minister Zhu on here before the month's out, or definitely by next month. We're going to definitely have this brother on here at least once a month because the message is just that important. So thanks for coming on, brother. And to everybody out there listening, thank you, and we will see you next time.